Welcome to day 4 of the 5-day challenge. So, wow, we've had an awesome week so far. We've still got two days to go. So, and today and tomorrow are both pretty big days. Hopefully you are having a chance to actually apply all of this and see how it works so that you can come with questions or posting questions into the group or whatever it is, whatever I need to do this week to help you and assist you in any way that I can, I'm here for you. So you've got me for this week. Use me as much as you need to. Before we jump into today's topic, today we're talking about shame, fear, and guilt. As I mentioned the other day, clearing out past trauma is huge in actually helping you move forward. Like, you can't actually move forward in your life if you're hanging on to a whole bunch of stuff. And so learning the tools of shame, fear, and guilt is going to be life-changing for many of you. I'm certain of that. Before we get into today, has anyone got any insights or any shares or any questions? Beck? What have you got for us?
It's a very quick little share. So I have this thing about people walking their dogs not on a lead.
Yep.
Absolutely drives me nuts. And normally I will see somebody, they've got their dog, it's not on a lead, and I can feel the anxiety building and I can feel the anger, and I'm just like, ugh. And this morning, this lady was behind me with her dog, not on a lead, and I was like, no, I'm not going to project my values onto her. I'm just going to let it go. And 2 seconds later, the ranger pulled up and pulled her over. And it was just like, I've never seen the ranger driving around at that time in the morning. It was just like, wow. Okay. I shifted, and it was just like, okay.
Great. Awesome. Wow, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a weird little thing, but it was just like, yeah.
Really, the thing about that I took from that just then was that you recognize that your values are your values, and that theirs are theirs, and that we do get triggered when our values are pushed, because from her perspective, she's probably, her highest value is her dog, and maybe her dog doesn't walk well on the, so you've both got different values. Beautiful. Thank you. Thanks. Anyone else have any insights from yesterday? Anything that they'd like to share? It's okay if you feel like you've been talking heaps. You're always welcome to keep talking. Anyone? Okay. Claire's just not Claire Hull, the other Claire Henderson. She's eating, so she's doesn't have a video on. That's fine. That's totally fine. So if you've got any insights, because by now I would expect that you're starting to integrate this, starting to think about it. Like, I've dumped a lot of information on you in a short amount of time. And in the 10-week course, because I was just speaking to someone that was saying, I don't know if I've got enough time to do this. I slow it right down and we drill deep and we integrate it into your life. Like, this is like a quick overview. And even though I've given you practical steps to do each day, I simply don't have the time one-on-one to delve into it deep enough and to, like, check off that you're actually, applying it in a way that's beneficial to you. That's sort of, the payoff of having a bigger group and lots of you being on replay. But those that are looking and are thinking about the next course, I think we've still got three places left. If you are interested, welcome back. You've decided to join us, so I'm super excited to have you on. That's going to be great. It'll be the first time that you've done one of our big long group programs.
Yes,
so
it is.
Yeah, that'll be really cool. Okay, so quick recap about all the other days, because we're building on this. It means that if you're just tuning into this video, don't worry, you don't have to go back. You might want to, but a very quick recap, because what we've covered so far is we've looked at your values, your belief systems, and setting up goals that are actually in alignment with that. And those 3 things are super important. Now that you've actually started to set some goals, but you had that foundation of the first 2 days of values and beliefs, is it making sense why maybe some of your goals in the past haven't worked out for you? Did anyone have that insight of like, oh, that's why?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And so that now that you can see that, cool, it's just that I didn't have the process. So it's got nothing to do with you and your abilities and whether you're good enough or any of that stuff that you've probably told yourself. No different to, if your phone wasn't working or an app wasn't loading, you wouldn't go, oh my God, my phone is like so bad, you know, it's so worthless. I hate it. You're not worth anything. You never do anything right. I'd just go, I probably just need to check the internet connection or reload the app. That's all it is. It's just like a really simple process. We don't need to make a story that we're not good enough. We just need to go, okay, let's go back to basics. What am I missing in this process? So it's really that simple. But unfortunately, they don't teach this stuff in schools. Why don't they teach this stuff in schools? It's like so basic. It's basic living, really, isn't it? It's basic living 101. That would be, there would be an opportunity, but unfortunately working in schools isn't in my highest values. Maybe someone else will take that on board. Not me. I find it challenging enough dealing with my own kids some days. So you guys, I love dealing with you guys. That's much more in alignment. Okay, so values. Let's just do a quick recap. You all have a unique set of values. Your values are unique to you, and understanding your values gives you a couple of clues. It lets you know why you behave in the way that you do, why you get triggered in the way that you do. But it also gives us a roadmap to when we can really start to refine them and have the courage to step into them. That's where your purpose lies. So when you've had those days where you wake up feeling inspired, you're enthusiastic, where you're willing to embrace both pain as well as pleasure, you know, those days where heaps of challenges come at you and you just sort them out and you get to the end of the day and you might feel tired, but you feel satisfied. You know those days? Anyone had those days recently? Yeah. Those are the days that we want you to have more of. You know, if you just had an extra one of those each week, how much would that change your life right now? Like just an extra one, or even if you just had one of those this week. You know, like, and if you just kept doing that a little bit more each week until all of a sudden it's not the exception, it becomes the rule. And then when you don't have one of those days, because you will have days when you don't, instead of going, oh, my life's shit, you know, and, you know, falling into a state of like, you know, woe is me, you'll just go, this was just one of those days where I wasn't congruent. They're going to happen from time to time, and you can kind of just brush yourself off rather than attaching a story to it. Okay, so that's the benefit of understanding and getting to know your values. Now, the other thing as well, and we'll touch on communication tomorrow, but if you don't know your values, okay, if you found getting to know your and answering those questions difficult in any way, did anyone have a bit of a struggle with any of those questions? Some of you have done those questions before. I know when I first sat in front of those questions, I was like, what do I think about? How would I know? And it made me aware of how much I actually didn't know myself. I didn't know myself. I thought that I did, but I didn't. I found when I first filled out that questionnaire, I think I was able to fill out less than half of the boxes. So if you're listening, if you know, I know lots of you are on the replay. If you're like, man, those questions were hard, I get it. I was there. I was sitting there in a workshop with 100 people and watching everyone else get it, and me sitting there going, I don't get it. What's wrong with me? Why can't I get it? These questions are simple and I don't know. And if that was you, if that was your experience, don't expect other people to get you if you haven't even bothered to take the time to understand yourself. Okay, that's a fantasy. That's not going to happen. The other thing is as well, is if you can only ever understand somebody else to the degree that you understand yourself. Okay, how are you going to understand someone else if you don't even know yourself? Okay, so this journey of like doing the inner work will have benefits on the outside world. It can't not. Okay, so whatever your motivation for doing this, if it's get to know someone else, don't sit there and try to analyze their values. Work yours out. You'll naturally see them in play, like Beck did. You know, you naturally saw, this is my value. Their value is probably their dog. That makes sense. You know, that makes sense. You know, my value is wildlife. Theirs is their dog. Can you see? You know, nobody's wrong for valuing what they value. You know, that's just what it is. And then the stress just drops away because you can start to see the bigger picture. When your mind is in that ratio, you cannot experience stress. You cannot be stressed when your mind is in a balanced ratio. Stress is a byproduct to let you know that you are polarized, and that it's just a feedback mechanism. You know, it's just a feedback mechanism to let you know that it's time to start self-regulating. And all systems are designed to snap you back into the center. But here's the disclaimer: if you leave it to the universe or God or whatever your belief system is to help you find alignment, it's going to be a shitload more difficult than if you actually just take it on and do it yourself. You know, this is where, when people are out here and they're not getting back to the center, this is when you attract cataclysmic events in your life. This is when you start, when your body starts to break down and degenerate. This is when you know, have, you know, when people have car accidents or, you know, like, you know, big things happen in their life to kind of snap them back into reality. I had one client that she was like, she was going through a really tough time, and she's like, I'm just struggling, I can't get it. And she literally fell over and banged her head on the coffee table. And she said it was like it like knocked sense into me, because all of a sudden I was lying on there kind of dazed and confused, and I had this epiphany, and everything that you'd been saying started to make sense. And in the space of a few months from that moment, she got out of a job where she was being undervalued, mistreated, and she's now working in a career that's very congruent with her. Career is her highest value. So when that wasn't working, that was very stressful. So coming back to the center, that's our values. Now, belief systems, okay? When you've got belief systems that are in opposition with your values, with your hierarchy of values, when you've got a belief system that your purpose and your soul's purpose is, you know, that you're not good enough to do it, or that's not a worthy cause, you will have inner conflict. To the degree that you've got inner conflict is to the degree that you have belief systems that are undermining your values. Okay, so if you are experiencing who's had an inner conflict recently? I mean, like, we all get it from time to time. You know, like, whether it be like, oh, someone's asked me to do this and I don't want to do it. The reason you don't want to do it is because it's not in alignment with your values. Okay, that's all. Now, it doesn't mean that when you get to know your belief systems and your values, just one thing, it doesn't mean that you need to walk around this earth being a total narcissist of that's my values and I'm just going to work on my beliefs. It doesn't mean that at all. Okay, your external expression of what you do may not change. It may, it also may not. But when we understand this, we can start to just focus a little bit more on our values. Okay, we come from an authentic thing. There may be times in your life that you still, like, that there's still things that you do that are out of alignment with your values. You know, maybe going and visiting, you know, your partner's relatives, you know, isn't high in your values. You know, that you see that as a waste of a Sunday. You know, there's other things that are more valuable to you. But if your relationship, when you start to link it to, okay, what's truly important to me? Maybe my relationship is important to me. And if that's important to them, then I can see how this is actually serving me. You know, so it will just change the meaning that you assign to things. And I remember, so I say that I don't work with kids, but I remember years ago when I first started doing this, and I was actually running a workshop in a local school around values. That's what kind of made me realize I don't want to work with kids, because dealing with the school system for me was like, too hard. I liked working with the kids, not with the school system. But I got my nieces to come, and I did a little values workshop about your values. And when you have to do something that's not in your highest values, if you can start to link it to your values. So if you're in a position, because who here has to do things occasionally that they don't particularly want to? Anyone? Okay, cool. Everyone's hand went up except for Beck.
Sorry, I was sidetracked. No, Roberta just messaged saying she's struggling to get on.
Oh no. Okay. Oh, that's probably why hardly anyone's here. Same Zoom. I'll just quickly do a thing. Same Zoom link every day. No. Apologies for those. Same link. Oh, look, if I just do that, I'll just put the same Zoom link, because maybe she can find yesterday's link in case I've put the wrong one in today. Oh God. Oh well. Can you send it to her back? Is that okay?
Yeah, she said cool. She just said it won't let me in.
Oh, that's disappointing. I've had that feedback. Unfortunately, I don't really know. I don't know what to do about that. I wish I did. Thanks, Claire. Claire Hull. There's two Claires. That gets a bit confusing, doesn't it? I'll just post it up again. So anyway, I did this workshop with my niece, and she was like, I said, how'd you go? Like, how did you go? She was about 11 at the time, and she said, do you know what? I did use that stuff that you taught me, Auntie Donna. She said, Mum wanted me to go to her friend's house, the whole family was going, and I didn't want to go. But then I just kept asking myself, how is this serving me and my highest values? And I just kept asking myself the question, and I came up with 4 or 5 answers. And then I was like, yeah, okay, we'll go. And I was like, that's cool, and so this is something that you can integrate into your life on a daily basis, because you are going to get your buttons pushed. Okay. You are going to have to do stuff that you don't like. Your partner is going to annoy you from time to time. Like, people will cancel plans on you last minute. Like, life happens, right? You don't just kind of do this and you're immune to it. We don't all have time to, Sherry, I was talking to you before, we don't all have time to sit there and meditate for 2 hours first thing in the morning and then go to our yoga class and juice and, be all zen. Like, that's not real life for me. It might be for, some of you out there. Probably not, because I generally don't attract people like that. I generally attract people that are sort of like more like, doers, and we're in it and we're in the soup of life, and, we're getting, we're achieving stuff. They're generally more the type of people that I attract. So belief systems, if they're incongruent with your values, change the belief system. Don't try to mold the value. Okay. Write that down. Change the belief. Don't change the value, okay? Because if you're changing the value, you're subordinating to somebody else's value system and making your values wrong and their values right, okay? Change the belief. Don't change the value. Well, you can't change the value because, it'll just keep coming up and slapping you on the face. So, okay, so that's beliefs, that's values. When you are setting your goals, okay, set goals that are both-sided, so you're prepared to actually put in the effort to get there, okay? That it's not just a fantasy. It's not like, oh, I only want that if it's easy. I only want that goal if it's super easy. Only, and check off that your goal is in alignment with your values. Sherry, would you mind sharing your thing just then of your values and setting a goal in alignment? Is that too soon?
Sure.
It's still probably, we just had a chat before this call and about setting goals in alignment with values. So what's your opinion?
Well, mine's family first. My husband's career in finance, mine's family and spiritual, mostly. So what I like to do is work with children, but because of needing to provide a paycheck, I've pretty much been working from home in call centers or out in call centers. And every time I just get on a roll and I'm about to get a promotion or whatever, I either have a stroke or something major happens medically. And we've been trying to figure out why. And what we were talking about a little earlier was because I love to be a mom and I was the mom of the neighborhood for so many years, I felt that was my purpose. Then probably it makes sense, because I didn't think of this, Donna did, that I should try to do something with children again. I thought because I didn't have a university education, I had 4 years, but I didn't get to finish, that I wouldn't be able to do anything. But my homework tonight is to find things I can do without that university education and line it up with my purpose and my values and my beliefs. And I like that. I mean, it gave me a joy I haven't had in a long time. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, awesome. So that's the thing. Yeah, just setting, like as soon as we kind of opened up the possibility that you can actually have a career that is in alignment with your values, so get paid for doing something that you love. I mean, that's the sweet spot, right? Getting paid for something that you love. So it is possible. It is possible. I mean, those that have kids, wouldn't you rather drop your kids off or leave your kids or have someone, interacting with your kids that loves being a mum and loves kids? Like, as a mum, like, we need people like you. Like and when you know that somebody's just they're looking after your kids, or they're, you know, running an after school activity or whatever, and they're just doing it for the money, can't you tell? And like, those are you kind of like, I don't want to leave my kids with you, because you're not going to care for them. It's a super valuable role. So I'm excited. I did suggest, can we do this homework like in the next 24 hours before tomorrow's call? So, because wouldn't that be cool if like everyone here got to see sort of, to see some possibilities start to come into reality, even just the brainstorming. So yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing what you've got for tomorrow. That'll be nice. Anyone else looking forward to hearing what she's got for tomorrow? Yeah, cool. Nadia, have you got a question or an insight? Do you want to unmute yourself?
Actually, it actually has to do about the goals.
Yeah.
Because I have, I don't know, 25 or 30 different children's books, and I'm finally gonna start writing them. Like, they just keep growing in number. Like, yeah. I get one 2 days ago, then I get one, and now, actually, just by having the call with you earlier today, now I understand why it's so important to me, because all my books have some spiritual and wisdom for kids. And then I'm thinking, no wonder I'm doing that, because as a kid, the other people won't know, but as a kid, I feel that my parents were so busy doing their own things. I think that we just needed to we're on our own trying to sort out what to do as kids in my family anyway. And I felt very alone, like I didn't have any guidance or anything like that. I didn't have any grandparents. I didn't have people to turn to for that wisdom and guidance, right? They were just too busy just trying to do the physical stuff. So then that's why it would make sense to write these books. And it's not something that I ever intended, but they just keep coming. But it makes me so happy when they come, and they're so much fun, but there's so much wisdom with them. So there's lots of different purposes. So anyway.
That's beautiful. And as you're speaking, I like got goosebumps and like tears, because I'm always looking for things like that. And half of the shit for kids doesn't have those sorts of messages. Like I'm always looking for things that kind of stories that can kind of teach a particular thing. And sometimes I end up just making up my own stories with my son, because I'm like, there's nothing out there that's teaching him how to listen to his own guidance and his own intuition. They're just not in stories. Instead, you've got bloody Peter Rabbit trying to steal vegetables from old Mr. McGregor and just try to see what he can get away with. And I'm like, this isn't great. So
everyone thinks all the stuff that we're doing as adults, that it's complex. It's not. It's actually very simple. Children can learn that very easily. All we have to do is just put it out there. So anyway, so I'll talk to you more about that another time.
The world needs that. What you've just said, the world definitely needs that. There is definitely a market for that. As you were saying that, I got tears of inspiration. I don't know if anyone else here did, if they kind of was like, Claire's got small kids as well. Claire's probably on the same page. Sherry is about to be working with kids, so she'll need them with whatever she's doing. Anyone that has kids, that is a need. That's not, I know that there are books out there, but it's not the majority of the market. But I know for parents, if that became like the norm in libraries and bookstores, that could only be beneficial for the next generation. That's for sure. Yeah, perfect. And also, yeah, Claire, great feedback. Would spark a genuine conversation between kids and parents.
Exactly.
If you can change the dinner time conversation, like that's, yeah, beautiful. Lots of benefits there to that. Thank you very much for sharing that. Yeah, that's super cool.
I'm excited to start writing. It's like, which one first? Anyway, I know there's just so many. So
yeah, beautiful.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Nadia. Thanks so much. Okay, so and congratulations, Nadia, because you're joining the 10-week course as well. I'm super excited to have you on board, especially now that you've had that, like that goals kind of become in the forefront. It'll be beautiful to see these things unfold. And that's the good thing about a course that goes over 10 weeks, is that we actually get to follow everyone's journey and be inspired by it. So that's cool. Okay, so that's goals, you know, like actually ensuring that it's in alignment with your values. And then the very last one was strategy, having a strategy. Now, Sherry had the values, had the, you know, when we talked about it, had the goal. And then the last piece of the puzzle was just a strategy. And it doesn't, when it comes to strategy, write this down, write this down. This is important. Take imperfect action. Take imperfect action. Okay, don't wait for everything to be perfect before you take that first step, because nothing will happen. If you're waiting for everything to be perfect, you're wasting your life. Okay, that's not what life is about. Take imperfect action. Claire, have you got something to share? Claire Huff.
Yeah, like your situation, or even if you're not perfect as you think yet, do you know what I mean? Like you're still doing the things that you're, you know, not supposed to be doing and whatnot. So just little steps at a time.
Look, absolutely. If I waited for perfect action, this course would never have happened. Like any of them, you know, I've been running this free challenge for almost 5 years now, because I started doing it when Floyd was 10 months and he's 5 now. So yeah, just almost 5 years now. And I can remember when I first started it, who was here? Claire, you might have been on the first one. It was clunky, right? It was clunky. I had no idea what I was doing. I could barely set up a Zoom call. I didn't really know, you know, I kind of knew what to talk about. It was clunky. I mean, even this time running this round, you know, someone was like, when are you doing another free course? And I was like, fine, I'll start it on the 14th or on the 15th. And then I was like, no, I can't start it then because I'm not organized enough. So I pushed it back a day. And then I was like, I just have to start. Like I've had family staying with me all week. And, you know, if one of my kids is going to get sick, I can almost guarantee that it's going to happen on a week that I'm running this or when I'm doing an exam. They never get sick any other time. so, you know, take imperfect action, like trust, you know, and even this week when I was finding it hard to find babysitters and nannies and all the rest of it, I just went, stop, you're getting caught in the details. Put it out there, open yourself up to possibilities. Ask a few people, think of all your options, think big rather than think narrow, and people will just come in. And then all of a sudden my mum rings up and says, I might come for an extra night. Great. You've just signed yourself up for 2 hours of extra babysitting. Great. So just, you know, when you're centered, you'll see the bigger picture. When you're scattered, you'll start to get stressed. And what happens when we're stressed? By design. When we are stressed, our focus goes from big to small. Okay, because if you really are in danger, let's just say that there's a lion in front of you, you don't want to be noticing the birds up there and the beautiful plant that's over there. You know, if there's immediate danger in your face, you need to focus on that with razor sharp focus. So if you're stressed, you're going to be focusing very narrow. It's how our physiology is designed. It means that you're working on point, but dissolve the stress. So how do we dissolve stress? Okay, well, the benefits is that when we do dissolve stress, we can start to go from out here, living our life out here. By the way, if you are living your life out here, that is exhausting. Who's had days that weren't particularly busy, but they've got to the end of the day after they've overthought something and they feel just exhausted? Has anyone had that? Because this is really hard work. You know, our brain takes up something like 25% of our total energy expenditure. But if you're spending your whole day in your head, it's tiring. It's really tiring. Okay. So this is the process to get you back to the center. Okay. We can dissolve shame, fear. I mean, like the 3 predominant emotions are shame, fear, and guilt. Okay, that's kind of like the baseline. You know, there's other expressions of that, but when you can discover how to dissolve shame, fear, and guilt, that's when you know, they're kind of like the base. Okay, you can kind of really tackle anything. And when you have this diagram in mind, so wherever your mind is, if you're thinking something's really, really good or really, really bad, if you ever forget these questions that I'm about to share with you, picture this in mind and think, okay, well, if I'm down there, what question could I ask myself that would help me see a balance? You know, I'm thinking something that's bad, so I just ask myself the opposite. I'm thinking that there's drawbacks to this scenario or this person or whatever's happened. I just ask myself what the benefits are. And I keep asking and I keep asking, and I don't take no for an answer, and I don't give up. And I start with 1 or 2 answers, and I keep building on that until I get to the center. Likewise, if you're infatuating with something, okay, if you're like super excited and you're like, oh, unfortunately, most people, when they start this work, they don't tackle the infatuations as much because we feel good. It's giving us our, dopamine fix, which you can get addicted to. But there's just as much benefit in doing that as well, because when we're infatuated with something, often we are getting led away from our values. Has anyone had that? Has anyone been led away from their values with something that they've infatuated with? Often the beginning of a relationship, I mean, I was talking to my husband the other week and I was like, remember when we first met and you said that you were going to do this? He was like, I was just saying that because I was like so infatuated with you. Now that I'm not, there's no way I'm doing that. I was like, okay, I appreciate your honesty. But, we do weird shit when we first meet our partners. Who did stuff that they were not really into when they first met their partner because they were infatuated with them? I did. I'm like, yeah, I love motorbikes. We all say stuff and do stuff when we're infatuated that's out of alignment with our values. The same thing. I'm infatuated with that. How's that a drawback to my highest value? Okay, and these are the questions that we ask. Okay, so we've got shame, fear, and guilt. Just a quick show of hands. Who would like to work on guilt? Who thinks guilt would be a valuable thing to work on? Guilt, we've got 4. Fear, good couple. Shame. Okay, shame and guilt are very, very similar in their approach to them. Okay, so just reset. What's the best way I can describe this? I thought I'd just put this out to a democracy. So it means that I didn't prepare notes for each single one. I'm just going to share with you on how to do it. Claire, pull me up because you know this work as well as I do. You pull me up if I've missed anything here. Okay, so guilt. I'm going to go through guilt and shame. You can go through this process at home tonight, okay? Rewatch this video and just stop and start here if you need to go over the explanation again. And then what I'll do is I'll choose someone. If anyone's got something that they're feeling guilty about, mother's guilt's always a good one if anyone's got kids that they're guilty about, because that's something that there's no such thing as a mum that's on this earth that's not feeling guilty about something. Okay, I mean, I have the tools and it sneaks up on me every now and then, so I can only imagine what it's like for somebody that has no awareness of this. So guilt's usually a big one. Now, the thing is with guilt, the benefit of clearing guilt out is that when we're feeling guilty about something, now, by the way, now this is going to feel like a weird link, but if finances is something that you're feeling that you're not getting on top of, look at where you're feeling guilty. Okay, look at where you're feeling guilty and also fearful, because fear and guilt will undermine your ability to master your finances quicker than anything. Okay, because if we're scared, we spend money that we don't need to feel safe, and if we're guilty, we spend money that we don't need to kind of bring the imaginary set of scales back to equilibrium. I mean, who's ever felt guilty about something? Like a classic example, I remember catching myself a couple of years ago. I cancelled on a friend last minute. I cancelled and I felt guilty about it, because for me, that's something that if I can show up, I show up. And I felt guilty that I had cancelled on them. Okay. And so subsequently, next time I saw them, what did I do when we went out for dinner? I paid for everything because I felt guilty and I wanted to kind of alleviate my guilt. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean that I wouldn't have paid for that dinner and shouted my friend anyway, because that's something that I do. But I would rather do it from a place of, I would just really love to share this with you, not from a case of, I feel like I owe you, and if I do this, then I won't. See how it's got completely different, and it's better for a friend receiving something that comes from the heart. So that's just an example. Can you sort of see times in your life where you've experienced emotions and sort of, spent money from an emotional perspective on things that weren't really in alignment? Yeah. Okay. So just have that in the back of your mind. It will pop up as needed, I'm sure. So guilt, the first thing is to write down specifically, and you guys can all do this on the call right now if there's something that you if there is something that you feel you know, have a think about something that you feel guilty about, and write down what that action or inaction is. Okay, I'm just going to use the example of cancelled on my friends last minute, because we've all spoken about this. And has anyone done that? Has anyone ever cancelled on someone and then felt a bit bad about it? You know, it's a nice simple one. I'm not going to tackle the whole, you know, the biggest, darkest guilts in, you know, 5 minutes. I'll just give you a nice, easy example. But whatever it is you're feeling guilty about, write it down. Don't leave it in your head, because for some reason, when we leave it in our head, it distorts. And then we find that we're not working on the same thing, and then we're not getting a result. So that becomes your North Star for this thing. It becomes the thing that you focus on. So cancelled on a friend. Okay. And then what I do is I start to have just a quick think about what that other person's value system might be. Okay. I think about, what is that person's value system? Just thinking, when was the last time I cancelled on a friend? I'll do cancelling on my husband, because I've done that recently. You know, a better offer came along. You're always here. I'll see you later. I've done that. So then so I'll use that one, cancelled on my husband, because that one's fresh in my mind. Okay, so then I think about what his values are. Okay, I think about what his values are. You know, he's more of a homebody, but yet he also has to spend a lot of time at work. Whereas I'm the opposite. I'm not the homebody, but I spend a lot of time at home. So then I start to ask myself, I have a quick think about what his values are, and then I ask the question, how did me performing this action or inaction serve that person in their highest values? Okay, write that down. How did me performing that action or inaction serve that person in their highest values? Okay, it's as simple as that. And then you answer the question. Okay, now what you have to make sure that you don't do is that you don't project your stuff onto them as a justification, that you genuinely look at their value system. Okay, you genuinely look at their value system, because in my case, you know, let's just have a look. I cancelled on my husband last minute, and like, oh, sorry, I'm going out the door, you know, here you go, you're here, I haven't, you know, there's no food in the house. So how did this serve him in his values? Okay, well, on that particular day, he got to just buy like a takeaway, and I think he got some Italian food delivered, which he would have enjoyed. And he got to actually eat food that I would be like the food Nazi. If my son and him were there eating spaghetti and meatballs, I'd be like, make sure you eat salad, and, you know, don't eat, you know, like that's what I'm like. I'm a pain in the ass with stuff like that. I know it, but it's how I am. So he got to do that and just spend some time one-on-one with his son. Okay. That's in his highest values. He also then got to just watch TV with nobody bugging him. That's also in his highest values. He got to spend time on Facebook and just connecting with friends, because he's not there connecting with me. It opens up space for him to connect with other people. He got to fall asleep on the couch without anyone waking him up, also on his highest value. You know, this is something that's important to him. That's a good night for him. Like, that's actually a good night for him. So I start to look at, how did this serve him in his highest values? Spending time with his kids, just having some quiet time. You know, the kids go to bed and the house is just quiet. So you start to do that. Another example was like the other day, I had to drop Millie off at daycare. So mother's guilt. And I had to drop her off at daycare, and she was sad when I left her. And then I rang 5 minutes later to say, how did she go? Did she settle in? And all I can hear on the phone is her crying in the background. Cue mother's guilt. You know, like, you hate that when you're first dropping your kid off at daycare. So then I had to ask myself, I went, stop, don't buy into this, stop. How is this serving her? And I went, well, first of all, those women will step in and they will spend extra attention on her. Okay, that's in her value, is getting attention. They will put, you know, they can see that she's upset. If she just blended in, she might get pushed to the side. You know, the squeaky wheel gets the most oil. Isn't that the thing? So that's a benefit to her. So then she can see that people are showing up for her. And what does that do? That lets her see that it's not just her mum that cares about her, that there's other people out there in the world. And that actually reinforces a sense of safety for a 10-month-old or 11-month-old baby, which is super important that she gets in those first few years. If I'm the only go-to, or my husband's the only go-to, that's like quite a small little world that she's living in. So as I started to answer those questions to myself of how is this a benefit to her, it meant that I could get on with work and get on with the things that I was doing without feeling distracted. And I could actually focus on my highest priority and then pick her up, and it was all good. Okay. The other thing is if I didn't process it, when I picked her up, what would I be likely to do? Spoil her? Do things that are incongruent with my values because I'm trying to overcompensate? Okay. Who here is, those that have kids, who's got kids here? Has anyone here got kids? Who's ever felt guilty and then bought their kids or, you know, something like, whether it be an ice cream or a toy or something, because they felt bad about something that they'd done, that their kid didn't even notice? Their kid didn't even notice that they'd done it. They're like, mint, I'm getting ice cream, or I'm getting a toy. Awesome. So we overcompensate. So if you've got too much mother's guilt sitting there, you know, can you see how that, you know, you're perpetuating this cycle? So if you're not going to do this for yourself, do it for your family, do it for your kids, because we learn, you know, as from visiting your belief systems in day 2, I hope now that you see that we learn through our environment. You know, our environment, it's not so much what our parents say, it's the environment and the felt sense in the environment. So if you're in an environment, you know, this is more relevant to those that have little kids, but if you're in an environment where mum and dad are self-regulating and they're coming back to, and they're spending time out here, but they're also navigating their way back in. And for those that do have small kids, I literally do this transparently. I mean, I have times where, you know, has anyone had a time, and I'm going to be talking about communication tomorrow. Actually, Claire, I'll get you, because you had an experience with this communication. We go into this a lot deeper in the 10-week course, but this is an example of what it does. Your kid's frustrated, okay, you're calm, and then they frustrate you, and then all of a sudden there's an adult and there's a kid having a tantrum. Has anyone experienced this? Okay, great. So I'm not on my own, because that was like a big public confession, but this happens, right? Now, the difference is when you've got these tools and you have these questions, you can start to go, oh, okay, quick. This is how I play it out now in my household. I regulate myself. I go boom, 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 boom. I bring myself back to the center. I see how there was a benefit and how this scenario played out. And then I go to my son and I just say, how I behaved back there, that was me feeling super, super stressed. Okay. That was not behavior that that we should be doing. But now that I can see that this is the benefits. So let's have a look at some of the benefits and how I got myself from there back to there. This is what the process mum went through to get back to there. So all of a sudden he's saying, this is how you work out a problem. This is how you solve problems. And he's actually seeing it play out, because then mum's not perfect. Mum's throwing tantrums just like he is on the odd occasion. And then they can see how to navigate their way back. And so, you know, this is some of the stuff. So you can utilize this with your kids. This doesn't just need to be for you. And whether you've got teenagers or adults or, you know, whatever it is, you can't teach what you can't do. You've got to learn how to do it first. Okay, so with going back to the guilt, with that question, you just keep asking it. You can look for there's a primary benefit to that person. Then you can go, okay, well, say for example, you know, my son and my husband, you know, ordering Italian food. What's the secondary benefit? Well, they get to spend some time together. What's the benefit of that? Well, it's just their thing, you know, there's no one, you know, like it's actually quality time where they can say things that maybe they wouldn't say in front of me. You know, there's not this third wheel in the dynamic, you know, that strengthens their relationship. So that's just an example of a primary, a secondary, and a tertiary benefit. So you keep just drilling down. And then once you've done 3 benefits for sort of each answer, you go to the next one, and you just keep going. And then before you know it, you go, I don't feel guilty. You'll just feel it. You'll go, I feel okay about that. Like I can see how it feels in balance now. I feel in balance with that. Does that make sense? That was, you know, did that land okay with everyone? Did I explain that well enough? Yeah. Okay, cool. So that's a practical thing that you can take away straight away and start utilizing and start integrating into your life right now. Please do this. This is tonight's challenge, is to find something that you're guilty and actually just ask yourself that question. How did it benefit the other person? How is that a benefit to the other person? And let's just see what unfolds for you in the next 24 hours. Come back with your experiences tomorrow. Post them up into the group, particularly if you're on the replay. Jump into the group and just share your experience. And this is also because keep in mind that when we're feeling that way, when we're feeling polarized on each side, we're only experiencing half of ourselves. You can't feel whole and complete, okay, when you're feeling like something's missing. Okay, so if you're down here or up here, it will feel like something's missing in your life. Okay, so if right now you're like, oh, things, I feel agitated. I feel like I don't feel complete. I don't feel satisfied with life. I'm not quite sure why. Let's just go back to basics. Start working on this stuff. Has anyone had that feeling lately? Like, oh, I'm feeling that way. That was the whole reason I got into this work. I was working in a job that I absolutely loved. I used to sell houses for a building company. And I was an interior designer, and so this was like sales and interior design that I got to like design houses for people. And then all of a sudden one day, and I remember saying, I love this job. I peaked too early. I found my dream job, and I'm only like 25. And then one day when I was about 30, I was like, what's happened? I hate this job. What's happened? Like something's changed. Something's missing in me right now. This isn't right. What's happening? Why was it that it was so fulfilling before and now I feel so empty? Okay, my values had shifted, but I didn't know. And I also had this stuff happening in the background. I had like fears, guilt, injected values, all sorts of rubbish. And that was when I very first found this work. This was sort of like my driving force, that feeling. So I get it. All of these processes, all roads lead to Rome, okay? It doesn't matter which process you choose. There's no right or wrong. Take imperfect action. Whatever you do to start getting your mind. And what happens is it's like going to the gym each day. At first, you might not notice very much, okay? And then all of a sudden you go, oh, I'm a bit stronger. And then you might jump on the scales and go, oh, they've gone down. And then before you know it, it's your way of life and things have changed. That's just like a tangible thing that we've all seen happen before, but it's no different. If you just do this for a couple of minutes each day, all of a sudden your mind gets trained into looking for the other side and for looking for the whole picture and not just part of the picture. And when you're looking at the whole picture, stress doesn't exist. Okay, you're not stressed if you're looking at the big picture. Okay, stress only exists when you're only looking at a tiny little bit and locking onto that and feeding a story into it. Okay, so do we all know what we're doing tonight for tonight's challenge? And just imagine, I want you all to just imagine for a moment, what would life be like for you if you did just spend, like, let's just say 5 minutes a day. Maybe you're stuck in traffic and you know these questions and you start bringing your mind back to a centered point. What would be possible for you? Even in 12 months, if you just spent 5 minutes a day doing this, something incredible is possible for you. Like, there's something really amazing if you just do this process. I've shared it with you here right now, so you don't need to necessarily go on to the next course to do this. You've got it. I've just given it to you. Try it out every day. See if you start to notice. Okay. Because the moment that you realize that you have everything and everything is accessible to you when you're in that centered point, the moment that you realize that you have everything already and that nothing is missing, the universe gives it to you. The universe gives it to you. Okay, so that's manifesting. We do that in the 10-week course, manifesting. But in all honesty, once you've done all the other parts, everything just falls into place anyway. So, Claire, have you got in regards to, did you have something that you wanted to, I know that you said that you were going to post up a video. Oh, do you want to just do it now, or do you want to post up a video into the group?
I can do it now.
Yeah, well, because what was your experience with sort of like tapping into like the communication? Because we will talk about communication in a bit more detail tomorrow, but what was your share on that one?
I don't know if it was communication. I think it was more about feelings, like emotions. Yeah. Going back to that memory and thinking about the person that was in there, and then asking how do you think they would have felt at that time, and then sitting with it and then saying, is this your emotion or is it theirs?
Yeah.
That's what was really profound.
what did that what was the experience for you? Like what like learning that tool, is that something that you sort of utilize on a regular basis? What sort of like, how has that sort of changed your life or impacted the way your family is now?
I think without realizing, being a sensitive person, picking up on people's emotions and trying to cover the spots to make everyone be balanced. So now I can see and go, that's not me, that's you. And same with kids, like, you know, like I said, when they're having a tantrum, they can bring you up, or they're trying to bring you to their level, but you can bring them to your level.
Yeah.
And the same with adults as well.
Yeah.
So that was really good.
And but so you say really good. Why? I'm just going to drill down a little bit deeper. Why? Like, why is it? Why has that been a good thing for you to know?
I think because when you're picking up other people's feelings and you don't know, there's no reason for you to feel that way. It's confusing. So if it's your own, you know why, you can do stuff with it, work with it.
Yeah.
But if it's not yours, you can do all the work in the world, but it's not yours. So you can't pinpoint it, if that makes sense. So
that's true.
And if you can balance yourself, people come up to you. They come to your level as well.
Yeah.
Authentically, instead of, you know, because you're not being authentic. You didn't even realize you weren't being authentic. So that was really good.
Yeah. And that's a technique. That's something that I've only learned in sort of the last 12 or 18 months. So, Claire, that's why I saw you over in Sydney when we did that. Was it Sydney or Melbourne that we were in? Was it Sydney? Yeah, I forget. We went to Sydney and we did that course with Lisa. And that was, oh God, that was such a life-changing moment. When I started to utilize her technique into this work, what I found was that things that I used to spend an hour processing with people, which was still quick in the scheme of things, but what I found is we could process it in 2 seconds and then move on to the real stuff that belonged to them. Because we are, you know, people talk online. I see people in spiritual communities talking about, empaths. We're all empaths. It's just to the degree that you've been taught to ignore your intuition and your felt sense, but everybody's an empath. So we're picking up on other people's emotions and feelings, whether or not we're aware of it. So that thing of, you know, when people say, are you an empath? Everyone is. It's called being a human. So tomorrow I'll touch on how to sort of use that to your best advantage. And so thanks everyone so much for being here. It's been lovely sharing day 4 with you. What are we talking about tomorrow? I think we're talking about communication. Oh yeah, the science of intuition. How to access your inner knowing. Just a small subject for us to cover. We should be able to knock that off in an hour. So thanks so much everyone for being here. Does anyone have any questions before we finish up today's call? Any questions or insights that they'd like to share? Nope, you're all good. If you think of anything, you know, by all means send me a message or post it up into the group, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Looking forward to our final day. So thanks everyone for being here. See ya. Bye.
Thanks. Good night.
Bye.